Every one of us has felt it, the surge of drive that pushes us forward, and the silence that follows when it disappears. Motivation seems to come and go like the wind. One moment you're locked in, inspired, on fire, and the next, you're questioning everything. Dopamine is not about pleasure, it's about pursuit. This is the most misunderstood truth in modern life, and it's quietly shaping the direction of your destiny. For centuries, people have chased motivation like a divine spark, waiting for it to descend from heaven before they move. But neuroscience has revealed something staggering. The fuel that drives your desire, your ambition, your hunger to overcome, is not released when you get what you want. It's released when you chase it, when you rise before dawn to build what hasn't yet been built, when you act without applause, when no one sees you and you still show up. That's when dopamine flows. God created in you a system designed for movement, not just physical movement, but spiritual, mental, mission-driven motion. Every time you commit to forward motion, every time you resist the false comfort of stillness and lean into the unknown, your brain rewards you, not with the final crown, but with the strength to keep marching, and this is sacred, because it means you're not a prisoner to fleeting feelings. You are wired for dominion, built with a system that multiplies effort into energy. You were never called to wait for motivation. You were commanded to walk in faith, and the motivation follows. Dopamine surges not when you sit and receive, but when you strive and believe. The enemy wants you to think you must feel ready before you act, that you must be inspired before you build, that you must be motivated before you speak the vision aloud. But the truth is, motivation is the echo of obedience. Neuroscience shows what Scripture has long declared: faith without works is dead. The act of pursuing, of pressing, of pushing through friction, it doesn't just release chemicals, it awakens calling. The more you pursue meaningful goals, the more your brain learns to link effort with reward, and that rewires you for purpose. Every step becomes sacred, every action becomes holy, and with each repetition, the circuit strengthens, the fire builds, and the vision clarifies. This is why the most powerful lives are not those led by feeling, but by design. Motivation becomes a tool, not a mystery. It becomes a current you learn to harness, not a cloud you wait for. And just like a muscle, the more you use it, the more it grows. The more you act without waiting, the more your biology begins to anticipate reward in the pursuit itself. You were not created to react. You were chosen to lead, not just externally, but internally, to command your chemistry, to understand the map of your mind, and to take dominion over it. Dopamine, the molecule of pursuit, is your God-given engine. It is the fire that fuels your mission, the oil that anoints your momentum. It doesn't arrive at the mountaintop, it pulls you through the valley. It's not the voice of arrival, it's the whisper in the dark that says, "Go again." Motivation rises when goals are broken into visual, trackable steps. The brain is not inspired by vague ambitions. It is moved by clarity. The ancient texts speak of writing the vision and making it plain, that he who reads it may run. Science now confirms what the Spirit has always declared. When the mind can see the path, the soul finds strength to walk it. The limbic system, the part of the brain that governs emotion and drive, does not respond to distant, abstract desires. It is activated by concrete visual progress, by seeing the mountain not as one impossible peak, but as a series of visible, climbable ledges. God wired the brain for movement through measure. Every time you define a clear step, your brain receives it as a mission. When you check it off, dopamine is released, not because the final goal is achieved, but because progress is happening. This means you don't need to wait for massive transformation to feel breakthrough. You need only to create small, winnable battles that tell the nervous system, "We are advancing." This is how kings are made, not through one great leap, but through thousands of steps ordered with vision and executed with obedience. The power of tracking your progress is spiritual. It brings order to chaos. It tells the heavens you are stewarding the assignment, not just dreaming about it. Neuroscience calls this chunking, but heaven calls it faith in motion. Break the goal into parts. Make each one visible. Mark each victory, however small. The reward system in your brain begins to awaken. What once seemed impossible becomes inevitable, not because your circumstances changed, but because your perception was aligned with truth. Visualizing your path is not just about motivation, it's about dominion. When your goals live only in your imagination, your emotions remain enslaved to uncertainty. But when you bring your goals into the light, onto paper, into structure, into measurable form, you activate the prefrontal cortex, the seat of executive function, planning, and God-given authority. You shift from reaction to rulership. Your mind was designed not to wander, but to build. And what it builds best are paths, ladders, and systems that it can return to again and again until they become strongholds of victory. Do not despise the day of small steps. For every step you write, every task you track, every box you check, your brain releases power, your spirit finds courage, and your calling gains momentum. The act of measuring is not a worldly obsession with performance. It is a divine discipline that multiplies faith. It is the way your biology reflects your belief that the promise is worth pursuing. And when you walk with that kind of intentionality, the neural circuits of doubt begin to die, and the highways of holy pursuit are carved into your mind. This is how heaven meets earth, not just in the vision, but in the plan. Your internal state follows your physical actions, not the other way around. The world tells you to wait until you feel ready, until the fire of inspiration hits, until your emotions align with your goals. But that is a lie. The body is not the slave of the mind is shaped by the body. Neuroscience confirms what the ancient prophets and warriors already knew. Motion precedes emotion. Action carves pathways in the brain. Movement creates momentum. When you act in faith, your biology obeys. You don't wait for confidence, you walk and confidence is generated. You don't wait to feel courageous. You move and courage is born in the stride. Every time you take a physical step toward purpose, stand up when you want to stay down, breathe deeply when panic grips you, speak life when silence tempts you, your nervous system rewires itself. The brain begins to map new circuits, the hormones begin to align, and the fire begins to kindle. It is in doing that the human machine awakens. This is not theory. This is sacred protocol written into your flesh and your spirit. The Creator did not build you to be led by unstable emotion, but by intentional action. You are a temple not of hesitation, but of holy execution. When you move, even if the mind is doubtful, the brain interprets that movement as belief. You stand tall, your posture changes, your breath steadies, and suddenly the signals begin to shift. Norepinephrine is released, dopamine starts to rise, cortisol begins to balance. You have just turned the key, not by waiting, but by willing. And the shift is exponential. A single act, waking up at dawn, stepping into the cold, picking up the weight, writing the plan, speaking the truth, ignites a chain reaction that reshapes your chemistry and rewires your perception. The mistake most people make is thinking they need to feel strong to act strong. But strength is forged in the fires of obedience, not comfort. Even the act of smiling when the heart is heavy, of lifting your gaze when shame tries to bow your head, sends signals through your vagus nerve that you are not a victim. You are a vessel of dominion. Every part of your body speaks, and when you take physical control, the brain listens and aligns. The temple is activated. Fire falls not on the wish, but on the altar of action. This is why the prophets marched, why the warriors rose before they saw victory, why the saints sang in the prison cell. Their bodies declared the truth before their minds caught up. They knew something the science now confirms. When the flesh moves in alignment with divine will, the mind and spirit are transformed. Faith is not a feeling. It is a function, and the body is its first instrument. Your biology is not a barrier. It is a tool of breakthrough. Use it, move, stand, speak, lift, build. Walk like the answer is yes, and the temple within you will begin to burn with power. Cold exposure, light, and movement can rapidly shift brain chemistry toward drive. These are not hacks. They are ancient alignments now confirmed by modern neuroscience. When the body is exposed to intentional discomfort, when you step into the cold, into the light, into motion, you send a signal to the brain, we are not hiding, we are rising. That signal activates powerful neurochemical cascades, dopamine, epinephrine, norepinephrine, all designed by the Creator to awaken the warrior within. These forces are not random, they are tools of dominion, of discipline, of deliberate transformation. You were not made to sit in shadows waiting for motivation. You were made to step into environments that ignite it. Cold plunges, or even short-term exposure to cold water, send a jolt to your nervous system that is both shocking and sacred. It tells the brain we are in adversity, and the brain responds by heightening alertness, sharpening focus, and flooding the body with catecholamines. The cold is a furnace for the mind, and while the flesh recoils, the spirit is refined. You learn in that moment that discomfort is not the enemy. It is the anointing of the prepared. When you master your response to cold, you learn to master your response to life's chaos. You rewire the circuits of avoidance and activate the biology of pursuit. Then comes light, the original command from the mouth of God, let there be light. Every morning, when your eyes meet natural light, especially in the first hour of the day, your brain resets its internal clock. Cortisol is released in healthy doses, dopamine pathways are primed, your body aligns with time, you are not ruled by the world's noise, you are synchronized with the Creator's rhythm. Morning light isn't just illumination, it is instruction. It tells your cells it is time to build, time to move, time to rise. It gives clarity to the mind and fire to the bones. Without it, the soul drifts. With it, the mission sharpens. And then, movement, physical movement, is a declaration of intent. It doesn't matter how small, a walk, a stretch, a rep, it shifts your internal state. Motion leads emotion. When you move, your hippocampus wakes up, your executive brain lights up, and your blood begins to carry strength to your mind. The very act of engaging your body becomes an offering. You're not just burning calories, you are stoking the altar of discipline. And when you move daily, deliberately, with your vision in mind, you anchor that vision into the body. You make it real, you code it into your chemistry. These tools, cold, light, movement, are not separate from the spiritual walk. They are part of the divine system. They are the external levers that unlock internal fire. They teach the brain that action is non-negotiable. They create a daily covenant between your biology and your purpose. They are not for comfort. They are for consecration. The body was not made to be pampered. It was made to endure, to adapt, to align with truth. And through the daily use of these forces, the fog lifts, the fire rises, and the warrior within steps forward not with hesitation, but with holy resolve. Discipline isn't a trait. It's a circuit you can train through repetition and reward. The world teaches that some are born with willpower and others are not. That discipline is a personality type, a genetic gift, a matter of luck. But the truth revealed by both Scripture and science is that discipline is a system forged in the brain through repeated acts of alignment with purpose. It is not inherited, it is installed. You were not born to be ruled by cravings, by chaos, by emotion. You were born to command your vessel, and every time you resist distraction, every time you say no to what weakens you, and yes to what builds you, you strengthen the neural wiring of dominion. The brain doesn't build discipline by chance. It builds it by design. Inside your prefrontal cortex lies the potential for command, for self-control, for holy regulation. And just like a muscle, it grows through training, not massive, dramatic acts once in a while, but small, consistent daily alignments. When you wake up early, when you shut down temptation, when you choose structure over comfort, you send a message to your nervous system, I am not a slave to impulse. That message is encoded. The next time it becomes easier, the circuit is reinforced, the connection becomes automatic. Dopamine plays a critical role here. not in rewarding indulgence, but in reinforcing forward motion. Every time you follow through on a disciplined act, your brain releases a pulse of dopamine, teaching you that order is rewarding, that structure is satisfying, that sacrifice brings strength. Over time, you begin to crave what once felt like suffering. You begin to desire the grind. The discomfort becomes the altar where purpose is honored. This is the spiritual power of discipline. It transforms your appetite. The flesh learns to submit. The mind learns to focus. And the spirit begins to lead. Don't wait for discipline to show up in your emotions. Train it in your patterns. Set the alarm, close the door, turn off the noise, show up when no one is watching. These acts are not just productive. They are prophetic. They speak into your future. They say, I am who I was called to be. And heaven honors that. Your brain honors that. Your biology begins to cooperate. The circuits of distraction begin to decay, and the pathways of persistence begin to dominate. Discipline is not about harshness, it's about alignment. It's about choosing what aligns with your highest calling again and again until the choice becomes natural. Until the action becomes identity, until the sacrifice becomes joy. Your brain was not made to be tossed by emotion. It was made to be led by conviction. And that leadership is built one repetition at a time. You are not weak. You are not broken. You are simply untrained. And now the training begins, not through passion, but through principle. Not through hype, but through habit. And as the days are stacked, the circuits are forged, and the fire of discipline becomes the furnace of transformation. Peak motivation is tied to controlled stress, not comfort. The world preaches ease, pleasure, and escape as the path to fulfillment. But neuroscience and ancient truth expose that comfort is a trap when it is not earned. True motivation does not arise in the absence of pressure. It is activated by challenge. Controlled stress, intentional exposure to resistance, difficulty, adversity, triggers the very systems in the brain that generate focus, energy, and long-term drive. This is not suffering for suffering's sake. It is the holy tension where growth is born. You were not created for ease. You were formed in the fire, shaped by trial, designed for endurance. The nervous system is constantly evaluating, are we safe or are we being tested? And when you place yourself in the right level of challenge, just enough friction to strain, but not break, the brain responds by turning on. Cortisol is elevated, but not in panic. Epinephrine rises, but not in fear. You feel alive, alert, ready. The circuits of attention sharpen, the system locks in. You are no longer distracted. You are in dominion. And in that state, you feel what so many chase in vain. Purpose, not pleasure. Purpose, and with purpose comes power. The ancient warriors knew this. They didn't train only when they felt strong. They trained to become strong. They fasted, they rose early. They chose the hard path not to punish the body, but to prepare the mind. And now, science catches up. Cold exposure, fasting, resistance training, intense focus, these all create brief, controlled stress. And in response, your brain builds resilience, your dopamine system expands, your baseline rises. What once drained you now drives you. You are not crushed by stress, you are refined by it. You are not a victim of the challenge, you are the one who chooses it. Avoiding discomfort is the fastest way to kill motivation. The longer you wait for the right time, the more your systems atrophy. But when you lean into hard things on purpose, your brain starts to associate stress with transformation. You crave the climb, you begin to rise before the sun not because it's easy, but because your soul has been trained to find strength in struggle. And the more you walk into the storm with intention, the more your nervous system learns, we are built for this. The storm becomes sanctuary, the pain becomes protocol, and the stress becomes sacred. This is the secret the world forgets. You were not made for shallow waters. You are made for oceans, for mountains, for war, not of violence but of victory over self. The highest version of you does not emerge in comfort, it is called out by resistance. And when you submit yourself to controlled hardship, to daily discipline, to chosen strain, you are not just building muscle, you are building mindset. You are forging a spirit that cannot be shaken, a will that cannot be bought, a fire that cannot be quenched. The stress becomes your teacher, the pressure becomes your path, and in the heat of that furnace, motivation ceases to be a feeling. It becomes your identity.